Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Danny's Life and Travel. And today we're going to be talking about AMD again. Just going to give you a quick update about what's been going on during the week, and then where I see it going in the future. So let's start off with this chart here for AMD. So last week we had two down days, so they were down by 7% each. So Thursday was down by 7% and Friday was down 7% as well. The Thursday dip came on. People said it was due to taking profit on based on the news because they had the Ryzen launch, the 8-core chip. Now there were some negative reviews on the 1080p resolution games as well within that, but on Friday, so on Thursday it happened because of that, and I think it continued into Friday. But on Friday there was this. Just show you this article just to show you what's happening. So basically there was an SEC filing showing that Mubadala, which is the sovereign wealth fund for Abu Dhabi, they own about, I think it was 14% of AMD. So they owned a big chunk of AMD, and they sold about 45 million shares. So it's valued about $613 million worth of shares. So because they sold that on the Friday, if I go back to that chart, so basically this dip around this time here, if you can see on my chart, around this time here, that's where they sold it, and then it rebounded back up, as you can see, and then it started to go down again. But the key point here is that on the SEC filing, it actually said that Goldman Sachs bought the shares. Now, a lot of people speculated and a lot of people thought that because Goldman Sachs is a broker, they have a lot of their own clients who actually use them to trade shares. So if a client wants to buy shares, they will then put the order in with Goldman Sachs, and then they would then process that order and buy the shares for them. Because they do that for many clients, a lot of people thought that's what they were doing for Mubadala. That's what they were doing. They got the 45 million shares, and they then sold them onto the market, and that's why you saw the stock price tank a little there. That's what they thought. But the truth was that actually, this has come back on, I think this is Thursday. So on the Thursday right now, a couple of days ago, this article came out saying that Goldman Sachs had actually bought the shares. They weren't just, selling them, into the market. They were actually buying and retaining those shares for themselves. So because of this, right, so that's been cleared up. So the stock has started moving higher. That's one reason why it's been moving higher. I'm just going to go back to this. So the 1080p issue we had all the way through Thursday and Friday, and then by Monday we had all the reports. I think by the end of Friday we started getting the reports as well, and there were statements by AMD and the game's developers. One of the games was the Ashes of the Singularity. It was really poor performance, and I think there's Warhammer as well. So these two companies, the companies that actually make these games, they came out with decisive, statements saying that they are going to fix the games, right? So because of this, I think by Monday all that had sunk in, so the stock jumped up higher. So those issues are getting fixed and so on, and then it jumped up higher, and then it started to go down again. So at this point it was 4% down, and then it came back up and it plateaued. And on this day it was up by one penny, and then the next day we got 1 penny as well. But generally, if you saw it, from this point on, I realized that it's plateaued now. Once it's done this, it's plateaued, and then from this point on, it looked like it wanted to go higher, but it kept getting shot down. So again, you had 2 days where it wanted to go higher, but it kept getting shot down at the end. But then as it went forward, and as you can see what happened here, so it went up by a couple of percent here. I think it went up by, from here, it went up by 1.3%, and then it was up by 0.7% on the Thursday, and then yesterday it was up by 4.5%. And the interesting part about this is what's happened here is, I'll just explain to you. Let me just see if I can show you on here. So here we go. So what's happened on the Friday after close is this article's come out. So basically AMD has now been added to the S&P 500, and that's kind of a big deal. It's like when that happens, the stocks normally go up. So we had Urban Outfitters, Frontier, and First Solar. So these will be replaced by chip company AMD Micro Devices, Raymond James Financial, and REIT Alexander Real Estate Equities. So we've been put on the S&P 500. That's why it's gone up after hours. You can see that is like 5%, 4.6%. At the height it was 5% just on the after hours, and then plus the 4.35% on the open on Friday, during the day. So it's a big jump, but we're back up to where we were. Let me see, where's it going? The monthly chart. So we're kind of up here. So we're kind of similar to back where we were before all this happened. And so I expect Monday it'll be either in close to 15 or maybe above 15. So that's what I'm expecting for this. The other issues were, I'll just talk through the other couple of issues that they had. So let's see. There was an issue with Windows 10. So here on the article it says AMD Ryzen low performance on Windows 10. And basically what it's doing is Windows 10 is thinking that because Ryzen is multi-threaded, it's thinking that each thread is a CPU core, and it has its own L2 and L3 cache. So because of that, it's reducing the performance. It's affecting the performance. But they're going to have a fix for this. The key problem with AMD was that they only supported Windows 10. They're not supporting Windows 7 or anything else. Even though if you have a look at the if you go online and do any kind of research, you'll find out that far more people use Windows 7. Even I use Windows 7, right? A lot of people use Windows 7 far more than the people that use Windows 10. And there's good reason for that. It's not that we just didn't want to use Windows 10. I mean, I for one have used Windows 10 before, and you'll see on my channel there's actually videos on how to fix Windows 10 problems. And these are a couple of solutions I came up with myself. It wasn't something that, I rang up Microsoft and they had no clue of how to fix these things. So there were, when Windows 10 came out, there were clear issues, huge issues. I mean, it crashed on me like 4 times, right? For no reason, And all the stuff I had, I had smart response technology, which made my computer very fast. Rapid storage technology, which again made my computer very fast, right? And I was using an SSD as a cache, and using a mechanical drive as the storage, but then the SSD would be a cache and so on. All of this was nullified. It didn't matter. It didn't recognize it. Windows 10 didn't support it. The drivers were not available for it, and it just made it pointless. And now I've got an SSD sitting in my computer, which is useless. I'm just using the mechanical drive, because there's not enough storage on the SSD. So these are the issues that I had, at the time, and this is what I was doing. Now, the problem is that, they have. I don't think that they've still fixed all the issues with Windows 10. So I think they should have been cautious. I think they should have gone for Windows 10 and Windows 7 for the time being, and then promise a transition across to Windows 10 once it's fully, functional and everything. If they had done that, then right now people could have still bought the Ryzen CPU and installed Windows 7 and would have been fine. I mean, they can still do it. It's not that it won't work at all. They have tested it. It does work. It's just that they don't provide any support for Windows 7. So that's the issue with it. I think they should have provided support for Windows 7, and then later on transitioned across to Windows 10, as it's proven that it's reliable, dependable. There's no issues on it. But they just went, put all the eggs in one basket and went for Windows 10, which is not a good idea. So now they've got issues with Windows 10, but a fix is coming. Yeah, so at least Microsoft knows and AMD knows, and they're going to work together somehow and bring out a fix, which is a good thing. I mean, it was my issue when I had it. Nobody said, and Microsoft didn't say, we're going to bring out a fix. Don't worry, there's none of that. The other good news was that Microsoft is going to be using AMD chips, the CPUs for the cloud computing, and this is something new. It's not something that they ever considered before. So basically, it's going to be what they're saying is it's a market worth 300 billion, and it says it's curious. It's a curious development. As GPU chips weren't designed to do anything more than handle a computer's display screen. As it turns out, though, its GPUs are very capable of parallel computing, which is a critical aspect of this new cloud-based function. I remember I read somewhere that it'd be the CPU, but I guess they're using the GPU as well. So Vega is going to be out, so they'll probably use that. In the meantime, Microsoft Corporation selected AMD processors to power its next generation open source cloud platform. At stake is a piece of the cloud infrastructure market worth an estimated 300 billion a year. More licensing revenue. It's only an unconfirmed rumor thus far, but a reasonable, credible one. That is, Intel Corporation is reportedly interested in using AMD's Radeon graphics technology. Now there has been this rumor about Intel licensing AMD's GPUs and the intellectual property all of last year, and I did read an article where it said Intel doesn't have to do it because even though the licensing agreement with Nvidia has come to an end, what will happen is they can continue to use the same processes for as long as they like. After that, as long as they keep paying Nvidia. But I didn't believe that, because what I do is I try not to take secondhand information. So when somebody else tells you something, like a news outlet or something, I call that secondhand information. I try and go straight to the source, get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I listen to all of the earnings calls. And one of the things that Nvidia said in the earnings call, I think it was the CEO, Jeng Sung Hong, whatever his name is, I keep forgetting. But what he said was about revenue. He said we're going to get part of the revenue in the first quarter for the licensing, the remaining licensing agreement. But then in the second quarter, there'll be no more revenue from the licensing, right? So he said that, so he said in the second quarter of the year, there'll be no money coming in from the licensing. That tells us that when the licensing agreement comes to an end, that's it. They're not going to be using the components anymore. So because they can't, and hence there'll be no revenue for Nvidia. So because of this stuff, I thought, okay, so it is credible that they might do a licensing deal with AMD, and it's the only credible partner left, because if you look at the dispute, they had a dispute with Nvidia as well in the past, where they were infringing on what they could and couldn't do with the intellectual property and so on. So it became kind of a mess. So it kind of broke down the relationship. So that's what's been happening. So I expect Monday to be higher going forward, because we've been added to the S&P 500. Everyone's pointing out their own numbers, saying I think there was also, I should mention, an analyst upgrade of the stock. I think it's Concordia or something, and they put it at $17. Again, I take that all with a pinch of salt. I mean, the estimates for where the stock should be varies from $2 all the way up to it was $16.50, and now it's $17, right? So I mean, I don't really go off what analysts say. I just thought I'd mention that. But going forward, everyone's throwing in their numbers. Some are saying 17, some are saying 20 by next week. I'm just going to be cautious, and I'm going to say that the only way to move the stock is on information. That's the only concrete, sustainable way to move the stock higher is on information. So we have a bit of information, meaning that we've been added to the S&P 500, which is a positive. So Monday should be up. So I'm looking at 15, maybe mid 15 possible. Again, I'm not very good at short-term predictions. Long-term, I'm much better. And this is why I only do long investments. I never do day-to-day investments. Although sometimes I do look back and say, I could have sold there, I could have bought there, I could have sold there, I could have bought there. But anyone can say that. But really, I expect it to go maybe mid-15s. And then, to be honest, I'm hoping that it doesn't gain that much before mid-April, because in the UK, April 5th, April 4th is the end of the tax year. April 5th is the beginning of the new tax year. And what my plan is to get all my gains. I'm in profit by quite a margin, So what I want to do is I want to take my profits and I want to, put them in my tax-free savings. So my tax-free savings will allow me to use that money again, So I'll put it across. We call it the ISA. It's a stocks and shares ISA. I'll put it across to that. I think the allowance is about 20,000. I still have a good chunk left over outside that, but still, I want to put what I can in there, or the majority of it in there. And then after that, I'd love it to move higher, because then, maybe I think it's about 80% of everything I have will be, that's invested will be tax-free from that point onwards. I mean, the majority, I think we're at 66 to 70%, which is all tax-free anyway. But this will bring it up to, that level. So we're looking at 70, 80%, something like that. About 75, 80% it should be. So that'll be tax-free, and I'm good to go from there on. So anyway, guys, this video isn't as long as the last one, but I do expect it to go higher. If you look at the 6-month trend, it's up and up and up and up. And there's another curious thing, because I was talking to someone else about investing in AMD, and I noticed something that was very, very curious. So I'll just share it with you quickly here. So if you look at it, last year, this is December 27th. So from this point here to the lowest point here somewhere, it went down by, I think it's 19%, something like that. Okay, so that's what it went down by. And then if you look at it from this point here to this point here, again, it's about 16 to 19%. So it's like a trend. So it goes down by 19%, goes up by 50-55%, comes down by 19%, goes up by 50-55%. If you know what I mean, that's what I'm getting at. And if this is true, you can look, try it out for yourself and see if it works. Or if you get in now, it goes up by 50-55%. Taking into account this low here, start from the $13 range. So 50-55% up, and then it starts to come back down. If that happens again, then it's a definite trend. So you can make money from that. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching my video. Hope to see you next time. And thanks for all the likes and the comments in the past week. I really appreciate it. I'd love to talk to you guys and share your ideas and what you think of the stock. So it's good engagement. And I think it's good to have like-minded people come together, talk about the stock and share ideas. And then, we can, if I have any shortcomings in my theories, then at least you point them out, and then I can fix those, and I can come back to you and say, this is why I think you're wrong, or and so on. And it's good, it's good for me, it dispels any doubts I have in the future. If there's any any downward momentum, then that's what tends to happen. Every time it goes down by 18-19%, right? It just freaks me out, and I think, did I miss something? But the truth is that this stock is crazy anyway. I mentioned it in a previous video that from $7 it went all the way down to $5, and then and then up and then down and up and down. Even though you can see, even mid last year, people knew Ryzen was coming out, Vega's coming out, so you can see that all that's going to be happening next year, but still people are scared, and it's very simple logical thinking. These products are going to come out, hence there's going to be revenue growth. It's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars easy. So add that to what the existing balance sheet is, how much of a percentage higher is that, and add that to the stock price, and then it can go higher. So it's very simple stuff as far as I can see, but people tend not to do it that way. It's more like, when the crowd is running towards the door, everyone runs towards the door, and this is what the problem is, because in the end, people like me who are rational, logical thinking people, we start doubting ourselves and start thinking, oh, hold on, am I missing something? Does everyone else know something that I don't, because they're all running for the door? And then I finally just sit down, I go through my numbers again, go through the company again, look at all the revenue, look at everything, and break it down and add it all up, add all the future growth that we see based on what they're saying. So AMD's CEO Lisa Su, she said we're going to be selling millions of CPUs. So I did millions, times that by the price of the CPU, and then looked at the profit margin, took that piece off, and looked at how much that comes to, because revenue is okay, but profit is what really matters. So I looked at all of that, priced it in, and say, yeah, it looks fine to me. So why are all these people running? And that's what happened last week. So I stayed in it, right? So anyway, it's looking up, looking good. So thanks everyone. Catch you next time. Danny out.